I get it. You're staring at that Add to Cart button and wondering if you're about to spend a chunk of cash on a laptop that will actually make your day-to-day easier, or if you'll end up with a pricey paperweight. Maybe you've already looked at a few workstations, read the hype about Hexadeca-core power, and now you're stuck in that "is it really worth it" loop. I was in that same spot a few weeks ago, trying to decide whether the HP ZBook Fury G9 16-inch would be the right companion for my freelance engineering projects. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the thing that sold me on giving this machine a serious look was the promise of a 32GB memory pool paired with a 1TB SSD. In my line of work, heavy CD files, 3D renders, and a couple of virtual machines running side by side, the difference between 16GB and 32GB is night and day. I can have my design software, a video editor, and a local build environment all humming at once, without the dreaded "not enough memory" pop-up that forces you to close a program you actually need. That alone feels like a practical time saver, especially when deadlines are tight. Now, let's talk about the display. The 16-inch panel sits at 1920x1200, which isn't the absolute highest resolution you'll find in a portable, but it strikes a sweet spot for productivity. The extra vertical pixels compared to a classic 1080p screen give you a little more room for toolbars and timelines, which is a quiet win when you're scrolling through a long spreadsheet of bill of materials or aligning layers in Photoshop. I've also taken it on a couple of cross-country trips, and the screen's brightness held up well under both coffee shop fluorescence and a bright hotel lobby, so you won't be squinting while you're reviewing a render for a client. The graphics card, an NVIDIA RTX 1000 with 4GB of VRAM, is the kind of GPU that doesn't scream "gaming beast," but it's not a joke either. In practice, it means you can crank up moderate viewport performance in SolidWorks or Fusion 360 without lag, and you can still dabble in some light video editing. I ran a 1080p export of a short animation, and the render times were respectable for a mobile workstation. If you're a professional who needs real-time ray tracing for photorealistic previews, you might feel the 4GB limit sooner, but for most engineers, architects, and content creators, it's more than enough to keep the workflow smooth. One of the hidden trade-offs I discovered was the thermal profile. Packing a 12th Gen i7-12800HX and that GPU into a 16-inch chassis means the fans spin up noticeably under sustained load. In a quiet office setting, you'll hear them, and in a cramped co-working space, the hum can become a background distraction. That's not a deal-breaker if you value performance over whisper-quiet operation, but it's worth noting. The laptop does manage to stay within safe temperature limits, so you won't see throttling after an hour of heavy modeling, but the acoustic noise is something you'll have to get used to. Battery life is another practical point. With a 99 Wh battery, you might expect a full day of unplugged work, but the combination of a powerful CPU and a mid-range GPU drains it faster than a typical Ultrabook. In my real-world testing, I got around 5 to 6 hours of mixed usage, a bit of email, a quick spreadsheet, and a short rendering session. If you plan to be constantly on the move without access to power, you'll need to carry a charger or consider a secondary power bank. On the flip side, when you're docked at a desk, the laptop charges quickly enough to keep you productive. Who should buy the ZBook? If you're a freelance engineer, a small studio architect, or a media professional who regularly juggles multiple heavy applications, the 32GB RAM and 1TB SSD give you the headroom to keep everything open. The RTX 1000 provides enough GPU muscle to keep design visualizations fluid, and the display size offers a comfortable workspace without the bulk of a 17-inch laptop. The machine also shines for people who need a reliable workstation that can double as a decent secondary display for presentations. The 16-inch screen is large enough to showcase detailed drawings to a client on the go. Who should skip it? If you're mainly a writer, a spreadsheet-only analyst, or someone whose daily tasks revolve around web browsing and light office apps, the extra horsepower will feel like overkill and the price tag may not justify the performance margin. Also, Gamers looking for high frame rate 1080p or 1440p sessions will probably find the 4GB GPU limiting, and the acoustic noise under load might be a nuisance during long gaming marathons. Lastly, if you need a laptop that runs silently in a quiet environment, like a recording studio or a library, the fan noise could be a deal breaker. Practical strengths? The memory capacity really shines when you're multitasking. I could keep a CAD file, a large Photoshop document, and a couple of virtual machines open and switching between.